Hello, everybody. Welcome to my podcast, Adoption, Love, and Life. And we have Maria here with us. How are you, Maria?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I hope I said your name right. Now I'm just thinking about it. Okay.
Yep.
I have a friend, Marie, and then Maria. And you just never know. So
You never know.
I'm so excited for you to be here and to talk about your adoption.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's something that I've been thinking about for a while, and I just really appreciate the opportunity to chat.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to hear a little bit more about it and learn from it and grow from it as well. So my aunt, I have to think about it for a minute, my aunt is your sister.
Correct. Yes.
And we met years ago, but I never knew that you were adopted until like a couple years after. And so I've always wanted to hear more about your adoption. And now that I've started this podcast thing, I'm really excited to interview you. So
It's really a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's very fortuitous that our paths have crossed.
Yes. So let's hear a little bit more about your background, where you grew up, how many's in your family, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yep. I'm happy to introduce myself. My name is Maria Hansen, and I grew up in Logan, Utah. I was born actually in Provo, Utah.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure which hospital. Apparently, there were two. Back when I was born, there was a Provo hospital and an Orem hospital, maybe.
Okay.
So I have documentation that says both. So somewhere in
Awesome.
somewhere in Utah County, I was born.
Okay.
In August on the 2nd.
And by the way, my maiden name is Hanson.
With an O.
With an O. So I think that's cool.
And mine is with an E.
Yes.
So that's kind of cool. Another cool thing.
Yeah. Something we have in common a little bit.
Something we do. So I was born on the 2nd of August.
Okay.
I don't know a lot about my birth story. I was placed in foster care until an adoption became finalized and went through, and that took almost a month. So I was released to my parents' custody on the 28th, I believe, of August.
Okay, so we were like a month
or maybe
old.
the 30th, at the end of August.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so a month old.
I was just a month old.
Okay.
And that was about that. A couple years later, my mom and dad had a son, my brother, Andy. And then a couple years after that, they had a daughter, Angela. And so the three of us, kids and mom and dad, made a nice, happy little family up in Logan, Utah, braving the weather and the winds.
Yes. Yes.
And, I had a very happy childhood. I loved being outside. We did a lot of family traveling and family camps. We were always together. I think back, and I'm of the opinion that we got along as siblings. If you talk to my mom, she may believe otherwise. She might tell you stories, but I loved hanging out with my siblings when we did a lot together. I always knew that I was adopted. My parents made it very clear to me and were very transparent to me throughout my childhood that I was special and that I was chosen.
That was the next question I was going to ask you, is when did you really understand that you were adopted, and did it affect you?
I feel like I always knew because my parents, told me from a very young age. I don't know if I understood the concept until later. Child brains are...
For sure. At what age did you kind of pick it up, though? Like when you were like, okay, I am adopted. I feel, for me, I think it was like right after elementary school, like in 6th grade. And I felt like, okay, now I'm different. Like everyone sees me as an adopted girl, but I feel different, but nobody knows. Right? Like,
right.
And then when you get in sixth grade, like instead of elementary school, like everybody kind of knows, but they're kids and they don't really like
Yeah.
comprehend it or whatever. But in sixth grade, that's when I kind of like, okay, I'm different. And people like treated me a little bit different, especially like my brother because he had a disability, which to me, I don't think it's a disability, but that's when everything kind of like changed for me, and I knew that I was like, okay, I'm adopted. I'm different, and that's okay. But sometimes
Right.
it was hard.
Right. It sounds like you're echoing my thoughts
Yeah.
because that is very similar to what I felt. I remember when my siblings were both babies and how much I just loved them, and would carry them around and would play with them and everything. And I didn't feel different as somebody who is adopted until probably elementary school. Um, I I recently told my mother this, and she she had no idea
Yeah.
that when I went to school, sometimes the teachers would speak to me in Spanish, and I didn't understand, and I'd be like, "How am I supposed to know what
Oh.
you're saying? You know,
So they
am I
just assumed
behind?"
that you were Hispanic.
Right.
Okay.
And then nobody really knew my situation except for the neighborhood kids that I would play with. And so word did get around the school that I was adopted. And they did treat me differently. And kids can be kind of harsh, at a young age. And so I remember questions like, why didn't why didn't your mom want you? Why are you different? Um, Back in the 70s, there was a show called Wednesday's Child,
Oh, I've never heard of
and
that.
this would feature a child every week on Wednesday, like a an adoption story or a disadvantaged child of some situation. It would
Okay.
just air on TV, and so some kids at school called me Wednesday's Child,
Oh.
which was really like I didn't feel different in my family. I just felt different at school
Yeah.
and, in the community.
Yeah.
So
And that
that
could
was very hard as a kid to kind of wrap my
wrap
brain
your
around.
brain around it. Well, and I feel like too, in elementary, it is so hard to wrap your head around that unless your parents like teach you that, or
Right.
if they do ask questions, they're asking questions but it's coming out really mean, but they don't understand until their parents at home talk about adoption kids or like why they were adopted. So I had tons of questions like that, like, oh, your parents didn't want you, like, I'm like, okay, that's kind of hurtful, but I'm gonna not take
Yeah.
it hurtful. I've learned not to take it hurtful.
Right.
But it's so hard to just elementary is hard anyways for kids to understand that concept. But then as I got older too, even in high school, I would have some friends. And I mean, most of the friends that I knew and I grew up with, like they knew, but my friends would always stick up for me. Like if they made, fun of me or my brother, or my brother also, we weren't really tight in high school. But so when people found out that we were brother and sister, they were like, that's not your brother. Because we were
Right.
totally the opposite. And, but some people would be like, oh my gosh, that's your brother? How stupid. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, like you don't need to understand like our circumstances, our
Right.
situation. And my friends would always stick up for me. And I really appreciated that. But I learned to stick up for myself and pretty much said, you know what? You haven't been adopted. So you have like no say. Like,
Right.
and they would be like, okay. And then like the next day they would actually like go home. I don't know who they talked to, but they would like come back and like apologize. Be like, oh, I'm so sorry that I made you feel this way. Like, I didn't know. So and so told me about adoption. Like, was your life hard? Then they would ask questions that were more sincere if they
Right.
really wanted to know. But yeah, it's such a hard thing to explain to kids in elementary, and then you're trying to find who you are too, and that's just like a hard age for everybody.
Right.
Oops.
I think kind of piggybacking along that line of thinking, I would hear a lot from community members, you're so lucky. You I bet you're just so glad that you're part of this family. And that was very confusing to me as a child too, because I didn't know any different. Number one, and number two, I did not choose to be adopted. You know, this was completely out of my control as a kid.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of pressure to put on a child, to say you should feel grateful. You should feel like you're a lucky person, you know, being in the situation you are, when you might not have any control over that.
For sure. Okay. Yeah, I think you mentioned that last time when we were talking, and it did not make sense to me because I was like, why? Why would you not feel that way? But that totally makes sense because you were a baby, so you didn't know any different. Where my situation is totally different than yours, where I am so grateful and blessed because I think my life would have been horrible.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have what I have now. Like, I'm not saying my parents gave me everything, but when I look back at it, I think they did, because for me, it's like I was older. I was 8, and I could have been left there, and it probably would have really been a bad situation. And so if I didn't come, I wouldn't have the things that I have now. I wouldn't have the gospel. I wouldn't have, family, my extended family that I love so much, and just a life here. Like everything I just contribute to a blessing of mine. My kids, my husband. I don't think I would have ever met my husband if my parents didn't get me. And so your situation is totally different. Now that makes sense why you would feel that way. So.
Right. And it's not to critique, my parents at all. I think that I had the best case scenario. And I can only speak to my personal experience. I had a great childhood, the best family.
Yeah.
And they are my family.
Yeah.
When kids would ask me, well, where's your real mom? I would point to my mom, because that is my real mom.
I would do that too. I'm like, that is my mom. Like, oh, well, if your mom ever came back, like, would you go back? I'm like, no.
Right.
Like, that is my mom. That's who gave me life. Yeah, do I have it in the back of my head, like, who my mom is? For sure. I think we all do. Like, feeling a little bit empty in a way for me. Like, there's something missing. Not empty, but, like, missing, right? And it's like, I'm always going to wonder and why and all of these questions. But that is my mom. That's my dad. Like, I would not trade them for the world, even if I met my parents. My real parents, I would be like, this is my mom and dad.
Yeah.
I would introduce them that way. Yeah.
And so just knowing that and the love that's there, and the life that I have built and been so privileged to have, does not make it any easier to be a person who's adopted. I'm not going to say that adoption is good in my eyes. I'm not going to say that it's bad, but I can say that it's hard, So when as a kid, I have been told to feel lucky, it's like, well, this is really hard. And that's what my young brain was thinking. So I'm lucky to have this really, hard experience where I feel so other. I feel so left out. I feel like, I will be letting my mom down if I tell her I feel sad because I don't know where it came from. All of that pressure on a kid is pretty rough.
Yeah.
And so to say that, that's not to say that I'm not grateful for, everything. It's just to say that I would prefer to illustrate the whole experience. It's just tough, It's not good. It's not bad. It's just really hard.
Yeah. And it's definitely a different as you get older and older too.
For sure.
To try, because I feel like as you get older, you start feeling, or you start finding who you are. And there's things that come in your life that just you react a certain way, or you get affected by somebody's word or something like that, and you're like, holy crap, why am I feeling this way? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And I think there's a part of us, at least for me, I shouldn't say us, I shouldn't speak for you, but there's like a part of me that I'm like, wow, why am I reacting to this certain thing? And I look back and it's like, oh my gosh, it's my childhood. It's, but for me, I can't, for me at least, I can't go back. I mean, I could. A lot of people have asked me, why don't you do the therapy? I don't even know what it's called, but where they like hypnotize you and like you try to remember your childhood. And I'm like, why? Why would I resurface something that was so unhappy for me and so many bad memories?
Yeah.
But like, in some way I'm like, maybe I should do that and see why I react to certain things that happen in my life.
Sure.
That would be a great answer, maybe to all the things that I'm like feeling and going through.
Yeah.
It's
And I mean,
hard.
everybody's journey is different, right? So I think you really have to be the author of your own story.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, I was very interested in biological parents. And my adoption was conducted through a church. And so my adoption was completely closed.
Okay.
And I looked into, finding out whether any documents or anything was left for me with the church folks, to just kind of find out any information I could about my biological parents, and there was nothing there. And I remember feeling a little bit let down. But through many years of we're talking decades of work with my feelings about being adopted, and just kind of like you're saying, going back to what that was triggering. Why? What was triggering about that statement when people would ask my mom, well, do you have children of your own? And I would feel weird about that, and why would I feel weird about that? I had to do a lot of work, with therapists, with friends, with my support system to try and figure out my own feelings so that I could sort of, build this picture of who I am and why I am the way that I am.
Yeah.
So
because I think
a lot of work.
It does. And I've gone to a lot of therapy as well. And it's really helped me in a way, but then you have to find the right therapist. That's for sure.
That's true.
But yeah, it's definitely something I don't think a lot of people like understand. Especially when you don't have a background that you can go back to. And, especially like, so it just kind of reminds me, like when I was pregnant with both of my kids, a lot of the questions is always, oh, are you allergic to anything? Or are you, what's your background? I'm like, I don't have anything. I'm adopted.
Yeah.
So give me whatever. And if I react to it, I guess I'll find out.
Then we'll know.
And that's been like a scary thing for me because being pregnant, amazing. But at the same time, it's like, oh no, here I go to the hospital again. If I am going through something, genetically, I have no genetics, like no medical genetics. Like I have no idea what I'll have later in my life, like anything. But that is like a part of me where it reminds me of that's when I kind of react like, I don't know, I'm adopted. So give me whatever and I'll react to whatever if my body reacts, right? But then people, once they find out, especially at the hospital, they're like, oh, you're adopted. They don't know what to say. So I also feel like a lot of people don't know what to say either when you're been adopted and when they ask you certain questions, which is totally okay. I think it's the way that you react to it, right? Like, and I think you have to be honest. Like, I think I mentioned this to you before, where I wrote my book and like 2 years ago, and I had a person ask me a very blunt question, and it was very offensive to me. And I don't think he understood how offensive it was to me. But the way I reacted is I just kind of shut down, and he was like, oh, but I just told him in a nice way, you know what, I actually don't know how to react to that. And it's coming off really offensive. And so I'm going to have to think about it.
Sure.
And then maybe get back to you. And he was just like, oh, I am so sorry. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I also think you can learn, or you can teach others if they don't know how to talk about it, to help those adoptees, that they can be open and talk about it a little bit more. And it just depends how you react to it.
I'm really glad that I have such open communication with my parents, and I was able to ask them, still am able to have conversations about this at any time. And they're very open, and, they've been supportive. But I don't think that that's something that you're right. I don't think that's something that a lot of people think about. And so maybe a little education like this podcast and like your book can only help, this society and this situation.
For sure.
I know that when I was a kid, therapy was something that, was kind of just coming out and kind of new and kind of woo-woo. So that's not something that I did as a child, but it is something that I think that has benefited me as an adult and as a teen when I started, doing therapy. And just the amount of resources that exist now versus when I was a kid for people who are adopted, and for maybe people who care about people who are adopted.
Yeah.
To educate and to sort of delve into why these feelings exist, and how difficult it is to have one foot in one situation and one foot in the other.
Yes.
And how kind of torn you feel as a person when you come from an adoptive background.
Yeah. And for me, it's so interesting. It's like, wow, why do I have all these feelings when I have such a good life and I have all the things that I
absolutely
need? Like, it's really hard, but I think it's just something that we have that is just empty, because we don't have any answers,
Sure.
And a lot of people do have answers. And I've heard a lot of people like, oh, I wish I never found out. And so part of me is like, maybe I shouldn't either. Like,
right.
But
there's always a fear there, right?
Always a fear. When you found out that you were like adopted, what age were you at?
I don't remember a specific age where I found out. It was always just something that my parents told me.
Okay.
My mom doesn't know this bit either, but I did go and read her journals when I was a teenager. And so it was kind of a neat experience, even though I read my mom's journals.
Yeah. Was it about
Sorry,
like the
Mom.
adoption?
Yeah. And she wrote in her journal through the whole process. And it was so
awesome.
special to see, how wanted and cared for and all of that, that I was.
And did that fill that void, like that, did that fill that cup for you a little bit?
It did a little bit, but what we were just talking about, I have both of my siblings have children, and I have been privileged to be the best auntie. I love these kids
you
so
are
much.
the best auntie, is what I always hear. So.
And when you think about a tiny little baby, and the care that little baby needs, and just everything about this little life is just right there in your hands. They don't know how to eat, they don't know how to speak, they don't know how to, all they can do is cry and sleep.
Yep.
And if you think about that, that separation from a mother is traumatizing for a tiny baby.
Yeah.
And so no wonder there's feelings around that.
Or why we feel a little.
I think there will always be a void, like you said.
Yeah. And that's such a perfect example, because even though you haven't had kids,
Mm-hmm.
you have that separation. You have that feeling. And I
Yeah.
definitely felt like that when I was pregnant. And like, I was like, how could you give that baby up? Like, I could not do that with my child, but my circumstances are different than what maybe
Right.
my mom's was.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you definitely do feel that like little void.
I have so many questions.
Okay, ask me. Ask
um,
away.
but I feel like you've probably already covered this in other parts of your story before, but
That's okay.
just because I want to get to know you,
Yeah.
tell me about your transition.
Yeah. So my
You have a
transition,
little bit more in the memory bank than I did, probably.
for
So,
sure. My transition, like through like when I came to the United States or knowing when I was adopted, that transition.
oh, both even.
Okay. Yeah, my transition was very hard. I came from an orphanage that did not give any love or support or any of that. So I learned from that with my parents, just
Mm-hmm.
loving somebody, giving someone a hug is the first
Mm-hmm.
thing that I learned. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing to me? Like, I felt violated in a way, but I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't. I just have never
Right.
felt,
So different.
yeah, I never felt that connection with anybody or anybody that cared that much for me. I know it was hard for me. I do remember like being very quiet a lot of the times, trying to just to like figure out like what was happening. Like, because when I was in the orphanage, they don't tell you they're
Mm-hmm.
like what's happening. They're like, oh, these people are going to get you and you're going to go with them. And so
Mm-hmm.
I leave the only place that I know
Right.
that brings me comfort, but
Uh-huh.
brought me so much heartache and not happiness.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So it was like really hard to transition. Like, holy cow, like what is happening? Okay, well, now we're getting on a plane, like all of these new things.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it kind of hit me when so I was 8 years old. I
Mm-hmm.
think it kind of hit me when I was like 10 years old. And I
Mm-hmm.
finally like, oh my gosh, this is like my new life. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But also it was a really hard time for me too because I was trying to figure out my emotions
Mm-hmm.
at the same time where I didn't have any emotions. Anything that you would do in the orphanage, like you just never communicated with them. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's like a video I probably will never show because it makes me cry all the
Yeah.
time. But it's like a video that my parents had like a little showing of me before they
Uh-huh.
came. And I just say nothing. I just
Right.
like keep my head down. I do nothing.
And
I
they're
say
silent.
nothing. I'm silent. I only
Mm-hmm.
say like what they say. So it was a very
Mm-hmm.
strict school, and like school was really hard for me to transition because
Mm-hmm.
in one of my pages that I write is one of my pages for my book, I
Mm-hmm.
talk about the transition in school and how it was so hard because I remember sitting in the orphanage and
Mm-hmm.
they would give me a problem and they would just tell me, figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, how do I figure it out? I don't know how to
Yeah.
do this. And they're like, figure it out. And I sat there for hours. And I remember these kids would go outside and they would go play, and I would sit there for hours
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out stupid problem. And I
Yeah.
couldn't figure it out. And there was just
Uh-huh.
like no communication ever.
Mm-hmm.
So then when I came here, I had the best teacher, and I'm hoping she will do a podcast with me.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
But she changed my life in a way where I could ask for help. And
Mm-hmm.
for a while at school, I didn't ask for help. And I thought it was bad to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And she took me aside, and I'll try not to cry, but I remember her taking me aside and just giving me that time and letting me know, like, hey, if you're stuck, that's okay. But I
Okay.
would love to help you if you can ask.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just really changed me. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like This is so amazing that one person can just care so much and she has 30
Yeah.
other students.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that was hard to transition. And I think it was hard all the way up to high school, honestly.
Yeah.
I think my adoption hit me a lot more for like the transition of like starting, like for everyone to know, was in high school.
Yeah.
And I think most of the time people were really nice, but there were some people that were like, oh, she's adopted.
Yeah.
She's from Russia, like in, an orphanage. So you better be careful or she's going to, snap at you.
Yeah.
And be like, well, I kind of will since you don't know my personality, but
Wow.
but it was still good. I don't know. I feel like there's always a transition in my life that I think will always happen as I get older and older. But yeah, that's when it affected me a little bit more, was in high school.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I was so privileged to be a part of some research that was conducted by a friend about adoptees and how some of us might not know the path to what made us into who we are today. We might not know a lot about our childhoods. We might not know a lot about our birth circumstances, things like this. So it is kind of on us, and I did it naturally, kind of to piece our lives together and to tell our own story and to do this through whatever means we could.
yeah.
For this person, it was a picture of her in an orphanage. For me, it was more of some papers that were in my case report from either a caseworker or a nurse. Some little clues as to what made me me.
Yeah.
And then as I grew up, as you're talking about this transition, why I behaved the way I did, how I felt about myself. I remember in school, I would always try to be the best at whatever I did.
Yeah.
Because that would, help me prove my worth.
Yeah.
So that I could show that I was grateful. But in the same breath, I also didn't want to be different.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't want to be different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I didn't want to be adopted. I wanted to be my mom's kid.
Yeah. Or
I
just a
didn't want
normal
to be-
kid like
Yeah.
everybody else. Like I don't want to put a label on it.
Exactly. I remember one instance, and there were several like this, where I was in a spelling bee at school and I was getting closer and closer to being the winner, and how much I did not want to win, because that would make, people would look at me and people would ask me questions, and maybe they would see that I was adopted,
Uh-oh, she's adopted.
I
That
don't
means
know
she's
how,
smart.
but-
Yeah.
the kid's brain.
Yeah.
So I remember kind of purposefully maybe not being as good at spelling or not being as good in school as I had the potential to be, so I could just be normal.
Just be normal.
like everyone else, not stand out.
For sure.
But it was just a weird dichotomy to want to be the best, but also not want to be noticed.
Yeah.
And
Do you
all
also
this was
feel like
kind of that transition?
Yeah, do you also feel like the whole attention thing is a little too much?
It is.
Because I would think that if you wanted to win the spelling bee, also, I think there's a part, at least for me, when people find out that I'm adopted, they ask 100 questions and then I'm center of attention. And I actually hate that.
I do.
And I'm like, oh, no. So maybe that's why
I'm not exactly sure where that comes from.
Yeah.
But I feel the same way.
Yeah, because I would, like if so I was huge in sports and I would do sports all the time throughout the years, and I could pick up a sport. And I remember in college, I would just play every sport, like just going on dates and stuff and picking up a sport. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to do the sport. I feel like it's just like a part of me, like where I can just pick up a sport and I can do it. And people are, you've never played this sport? Where do you get that? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's like my whole adoption thing. Like, I would.
Maybe I'm just a natural athlete.
A natural athlete. I have no idea, right? But then I would like, oh crap, I did not mean to say that. Now now they're going to ask me about my adoption and I don't want to talk about it. Like that's the last thing I want to talk about. Like I'm not trying to brag that I'm adopted, but there's like that attention where people find out and then they want to ask more and they're more curious, which is great. I feel like I've transitioned that into being okay because before I would never talk about my adoption. So me and my brother were in the same grade every year because I got held back because I'm the stupid one. Just kidding, I'm not. I have this joke. But he would always introduce himself, and he knew that I would not introduce myself correctly. And so, because I would always say, oh yeah, I'm so-and-so, and I'm from Provo. And then my brother would be like, actually, she's lying. She's from Russia too, and adopted. And I was like, dude, I don't need people to know. Yeah, like you say yours, I'll say mine.
Yeah.
But I've learned to, like in college, I learned to like, oh, that's okay. It's okay to talk about like where you're from. But I also drifted away from that because of all the attention and also people treating me just a little bit different as soon as they found out.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Anyways,
I think it's still something that we see in the media a lot, even now, is, if siblings are fighting on a TV show or something, one sibling will say to the other, well, you're adopted anyway.
Oh, yeah.
There's just this narrative around adoption that is still kind of triggering, but something that we can educate people, by doing stuff like this.
Yeah, for sure.
Say, hey, we're out here too. Yep. And we're okay.
Yeah, we're okay. We're actually normal too. We just have lots of feelings, maybe a little bit more than you do. I don't know.
I don't know. And that's okay too. So.
Yes. Okay, so another question. I have to read it so I don't forget. What is one thing you have learned by being adopted just throughout these years?
I tried to think about how I could say this succinctly, but I think adoption, I will fail to say it shortly, but I think my adoption has made me stronger and who I am into the person who I am today. Just because I don't have that background to rely on. I don't have that culture or that, biological connection that everyone else does.
Yeah.
So it's made me a stronger person. It's made me reflect on who I am. It's made me be very cognizant of how I treat people. And it does make me appreciate the support that I have in my community and in my family.
Because there's some that don't have any support.
That's very true.
And just different adoption stories. One of the things that you said that really resonated with me was I am stronger as well. Even with my background, I think it does make me stronger. And I tend to just respect everyone that comes in my life. But I think there is a part, but there is like a part of me where I'm more accepting of a lot of people. And I think it's because of the background that I had, and it has made me stronger. And so I can resonate that with you. Okay, so this one's kind of like the same question, but what do you want everyone to know that maybe others wouldn't know about adoption?
I think just the things that we've been talking about here. In my situation, there were not a lot of resources available when I was a kid. And so my parents had to do all of that legwork. And I'm not a parent. I'm the first to admit I'm not a young mother. I don't have eyes from that perspective. And I can only imagine that adopting a child is just very overwhelming. And I imagine there's a lot to do. I imagine everything is new and different and hard. But I think that if you were to provide that child with any resources they could need, whether it be therapy, whether it be connection to their culture, or resources in their community, people to reach out to, friends like you had that were willing to stand up to those that might have been, struggling with their perception of adoption. All of these things can kind of come together and support the person who's adopted.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's what I would want people to know is there's a lot of support out there.
Where there wasn't
before. Ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's okay to ask for help. I think it will make you even stronger for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that's all the questions I have for you. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Or I think we have like a couple more minutes before this.
Just maybe it's a quick question, but maybe not a quick answer. Where do you hope this journey takes you with your podcast and your book? This is very exciting, and I really just applaud you for, doing all of this stuff. It's a lot of work, but I think it's very necessary.
Yeah, thank you. Honestly, I don't know where it's going to lead me. I just want people to understand adoptees a little bit more, and that's why I kind of started this podcast is I have kind of felt alone. I do mention in my first podcast how I did feel alone. I only had like 1 or 2 friends that were adopted, and I just never had that. Like, I had my brother, of course, but we've gone our separate ways, and he just lives a different life than I do. And when I started to write the book, I was like, okay, I've always wanted to talk about my adoption and talk about other adoptees. It's always been on my journal, my 25 journals that I have.
Yeah.
So I just hope that it reaches to a lot of parents that are adopting, so it can help them give a different perspective, and then kids as well. I want to be able to just help and talk about the things and maybe feel that connection as well. So I don't know where it will go.
A lot of times I think about little me, and I try to relate to myself as little me, because that's a part of my life where I really, did struggle with all of this. And if I had a person like a Kaylin, who could say, hey, I understand. Your feelings are okay. They're normal. It's okay for you to have these feelings and, be confused and feel so lost. I think that will help.
Yeah.
So great job.
Yeah, I hope so. And I hope that this podcast has helped you in a way where maybe you haven't thought about something before, or not feel alone, because we feel the same thing sometimes. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think you're amazing, and thank you.
Let's build the network.
Yes, let's do it. Thank you so much for being on here, and I love it.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Of course. Follow me, and we'll see you next time. See you guys.